I am seriously considering running for the 5th Congressional District. And, like I mentioned on my Facebook post, since we redrew the maps, of course, we had to redraw the maps after Supreme Court released their decision. And so many people have reached out and asked if I was interested in running. And so, uh, same thing essentially happened, I guess, back in 2018 prior to running for my legislative seat. People started calling and asking if I was interested. And, back then I was a husband and a father. Now I'm a husband, a father, and a grandfather. And look, I just want to serve in some capacity. I've loved serving as state rep, certainly intend to continue in that capacity, but it is an intriguing opportunity. And, I think I'm uniquely qualified and that I've got roots really across the 5th district. And, I would put my legislative record, my conservative credentials, my reputation as someone who's going to fight for what's right. I'll put that up against anybody. And so when people started reaching out, it's something that I've got to take very seriously.
So, and you briefly touched upon it there, which is the map redraw. I actually had to look it up on the legislative site at your legislative profile just to look, but you still are eligible to run as state rep until, if I'm not mistaken, the next you have another term in you, at least until you term out, that is. Why now? Why not wait until you term out and then run for Congress?
Well, of course, you don't have open congressional seats every day. And so it's a unique situation. Of course, Congresswoman Letlow is running for Senate, so essentially we've got a an open seat. I know there's a couple of Monroe area candidates that have already indicated they're running and have actively been running for several months now. Would not be surprised if additional candidates got in, but again, it's just a unique opportunity. And as many people as I've been able to help as state representative, you look now at representing 776,000 or so people. And our country in many ways is in turmoil, and we need people who are running for the right reasons, who are going to Washington, D.C. with a sense of integrity and who just want to make our country better. And that's what I'm all about.
Which, when I watched your Facebook post and I see you list out these big five main questions, typically when a person even teases the idea of running, they're typically running on the idea that there is a deficiency in the current list of candidates or the incumbent. What are you trying to convey to the public when you say, I'm thinking about running? Here are these five questions you should be thinking.
Look, I think those 5 questions, conservative track record, uh, proven record as someone who will fight for what's right, the ability to relate to the common man, woman, and family, running for the right reasons, and trust. Trust the candidate that ultimately you're going to vote for. I think those qualifications would translate to any elective race at any level, whether it's village councilman or councilwoman or president. Those are 5 good questions to ask about any candidate. And so, what I would say to the voters out there, the 5th district is uh, whether I run or not, and especially if I run, judge me, judge everyone based on those characteristics. And, I think I'm going to stack up pretty well. If you're running for Congress or if you're running for state rep, you better be ready to stand behind your voting record. That's what matters to the people of District 22. I think that's what matters to the people of the 5th Congressional District. And, let's face it, if you're an elected official, you better do what's right. You better stand behind your vote because it's public record. And we've got a lack of accountability, a lack of responsibility. And again, it comes back to trust. If you can't look your voters, look the people you represent in the eye, and stand behind your votes, then you really have no business running. You certainly have no business serving. I suspect some of those candidates who are previously running in the 5th probably going to be running in the 6th congressional district now. So really the only 2 candidates that I know are running are from the Monroe area right now. But regardless, um, I think these values translate across geographic boundaries. And again, I do have really deep roots in the fifth. I actually grew up in Ball, graduated from Tioga High School, went to Louisiana College, got a master's degree from Louisiana Tech. My mama's family's from Wynn Parish. My daddy's family's from Avoyles Parish, and I can't imagine anyone having roots that run deeper in the fifth than me. And the Grant Parish is my home. It's where I raised my families. But I think these Grant Parish values, these rural values, translate across the entire fifth district, which really, at its heart, is about the rural voter who expects you just to look them in the eye and have a firm handshake and do what you say you're going to do.
So, last question for you then is the insurance crisis has been a major topic for years here in Louisiana, and you naturally serve as the chair for the insurance committee in that on the House side. Do you think that's a hindrance or do you think that's a benefit to running if you were to run?
Well, I think it's a benefit. Look, we certainly have a lot more work to do when it comes to insurance reform, but we've got a lot of really good things to talk about. I became chairman in 2024. Just in the last year, rates on private passenger auto down almost 6%. And I think that's a direct correlation to some of the historic tort reform that we passed last year. Some of those really significant pieces of legislation just went into effect January 1st. So, very optimistic that trend will continue. Homeowners still increasing somewhat, but that rate of increase has dramatically slowed. We've got lots of carriers coming back into the market and beginning to write homeowners policies. Commercial auto is an area we've definitely got work left to do. But again, I think some of the tort reform measures are going to work. We just don't have enough uh, time lapsed between the reforms and where we're at now when it comes to commercial auto to gauge what we need to do next. But no, like I think anybody who looks at my record as chairman will see, I've gone against the big insurance companies. I've gone against the plaintiff attorneys to try to find common ground, and we've passed legislation to do both, to hold insurance companies accountable, to rein in frivolous lawsuits, and I think we're beginning to see the fruits of our labor pay off.
And that was my last question. Do you have anything you want to say that I did not enable you to say?
No, I would just finish with this, and this was really the message on my Facebook post is, like, I'm a man of faith, and this is a very big decision for me. And I would ask, not just my friends and family, but anybody out there, pray for me, but also pray for all of our elected officials. And again, at the end of the day, this is about who you trust, who shares your values. And so I would just encourage everyone to not only pray for me as I make this decision, but for all our elected officials, whether they're the same party as you or not, whether you agree or disagree, we certainly need to be lifting them up in prayer every single day.